Hello and welcome friends. Irish whiskey is whiskey made in Ireland. Ireland currently only has 3 working distilleries: Midleton, Cooley and Bushmills. Midleton and Cooley are located in the Irish Republic, while Bushmills is in the Northern Ireland. All Irish whiskies originate from one of these distilleries. Both Midleton and Cooley distilleries produce both pot still and grain whiskey, while the Bushmills distillery produces only pot still. Traditionally, Irish whiskies are distilled 3 times for extra smoothness.
Mick Meneman, I'm the owner of the Caledonia Bar here in Budapest, and I'm here on behalf of Expert Village to talk about whisky, and in particular Scotch whisky. Of course, the Irish also produce great whisky. Of course, they spell whisky differently. They always have an E in the word whisky, but that apart, they also produce great whiskies. 2 that I have here are the Jamesons. It's a triple distilled whisky, and the Tullamore Dew from County Offaly in Ireland. In the north of Ireland, which you can see on the map here, they also produce a whisky by the name of Bushmills. Again, Bushmills Irish whisky. So those are 3 of many Irish whiskies, but I think 3 of the more popular and well recognised names: the Bushmills from the north of Ireland, and the Tullamore Dew and the Jamesons from the Republic of Ireland.
By Irish law, all whiskies must be aged a minimum of 3 years in barrels. Single malt Irish whiskey is made from 100% malted barley by a single distillery in a pot still. Grain whiskey is particularly light in style. Made from corn or wheat, grain whiskey is produced in column stills. Blended whiskey constitutes 90% of all Irish whiskey production. Jameson and Kilbeggan are famous blended Irish whiskies. Pure pot still whiskey is a blend of both malted and unmalted barley distilled in a pot still. Pure pot still is a style of whiskey unique to Ireland. Pot sheen or Irish moonshine distillates don't meet the age requirement to be labelled as Irish whiskey.
Irish whiskies are traditionally distilled 3 times. When you distill something 3 times, you get a much more light, cleaner, elegant spirit. It also gives you some versatility to work with and play with. So when you drink an Irish whiskey, you don't want to expect anything overly robust. They tend to be lighter, crisper, cleaner. When you read an Irish whiskey label, good luck. When you read a label, even if you see it in script or fancy writing or something that looks like you shouldn't have to pay attention to it, read it anyway, and that's how you're going to learn. Alright, so here we say in very, very fine print, a harmonious blend of traditionally matured old Irish whiskey and a unique virgin oak matured rich pot still whiskey. So basically what they're trying to tell you is there's some grain whiskey over on this side, and then over here they're saying they're putting the portion of the pot still whiskey in a virgin oak barrel, which is going to give it a much stronger vanilla influence. Now you go over here, to make matters even more confusing, this is Bushmill 1608. About all it says on the label is that it's an anniversary edition, triple distilled in pot stills. I don't think you can get in there, but there are 3 pictures of a pot still, and distilled with crystal malt for exceptional smoothness. But it also says finest blended Irish, and that blended is going to indicate that there is in fact grain whiskey in it. But they also have this, Bushmills 10-year-old single malt. Single malt is all barley. You see triple distill on there, and it says matured in 2 woods. Okay, but they don't tell you which 2 woods. So your chances are you're going to be using a used bourbon cask and probably some used sherry. This is a blended Irish whiskey, a super premium Irish whiskey. This is the Colonel of the Irish Whiskey Army. This is the 2008. Okay? And they're going to tell you again on the back label, 2008. That means if you get something from 2007, where you've been drinking this for a number of years, as I have, don't always expect the same identical thing year to year. Things do change, and that's specifically why they put that date on the label. As much as you kind of want to geek out and know exactly what you're drinking and everything else, the truth of the matter is you better taste it first. Because if you don't like the way it tastes, what it says on the label or what it says on their websites is going to be completely useless to you. I guess when you look at Irish whiskey, if everybody could just do me a favor and realize that Irish whiskey is not a shot to accompany a Guinness. They're the ones who got us, the world, to drink whiskey. They've done so much for the whiskey drinking world that to look at it now as a sideline to St. Patrick's Day debauchery makes me cry a little bit. So do me a favor, just have a glass and realize that this is, amongst everything else, one of the few things that...
The word whiskey or whiskey comes from the Gaelic Use Betha, meaning water of life. Irish whiskey was one of the earliest distilled drinks in Europe, arising around the 12th century. See distilled beverage. It is believed that Irish monks brought the technique of distilling perfumes back to Ireland from their travels to the Mediterranean countries around 1000 AD. The Irish then modified this technique to obtain a drinkable spirit. The old Bushmills distillery claims to be the oldest surviving licensed distillery in the world. It received a license from James I in 1608, although the Bushmills Company was not established until the late 18th century. A statute introduced in the late 16th century introduced a viceregal license for the manufacture of whiskey. The making of Irish whiskey can be divided into 5 basic stages. Malting. In the making of Irish whiskey, malted barley is dried in closed ovens. The barley never comes in contact with smoke, so the true malted barley flavor shines through with no smokiness. Mashing. The process of grinding the grain into grist and then mixing it with water to produce wort. Fermentation. Once again, the same basic process applies to Irish whiskey. Yeast is added to convert the liquid's sugars into alcohol. Distillation. During this stage, the alcohol with a lower boiling point than water is steamed off. Irish whiskies are usually but not always triple distilled because each stage of distillation increases the purity and smoothness of the whiskey. This is what makes Irish whiskey particularly pure and smooth. Maturation. During the final stage of the process, the whiskies are transferred into casks to mature for the required number of years. 3 is the legal minimum, but some whiskies are left for many years more. Irish whiskey may be the smallest of the big 4, Scotch, Bourbon, Canadian and Irish, but it is the fastest growing of them all. It is also growing faster than any other spirits category globally, higher than tequila, vodka, gin and other established categories. Cheers friends, have a lovely day.